Hello, my name is Jack. Welcome back to my vault. Every mystery I bring you happens somewhere hidden, in a locked room, in a dark forest, in a sunken ship. But today's mystery happened in your living room, on your television screen, in front of your entire family. On the night of November 22nd, 1987, millions of people across Chicago sat down to watch the evening news. It was a Sunday, a normal Sunday, the kind of night where nothing happens. But at exactly 9:25 p.m., something interrupted the broadcast. The screen went to static, and then a figure appeared, a masked figure, laughing, saying things that made no sense, moving in ways that felt wrong. The broadcast lasted less than 30 seconds, and then it was gone. The engineers at the station had no idea what had just happened. The FBI launched an investigation that same night. They never found the person. They never found the equipment. They never found a single answer. 37 years later, the case remains completely unsolved. This is not a story about a ghost. This is not a story about aliens. This is a story about a real human being who did something impossible and then simply disappeared. The vault is open. To understand why this event was so deeply disturbing, you need to understand the world it happened in. 1987. No internet, no smartphones, no social media. When you turned on the television, you trusted it. The news anchor was an authority. The broadcast signal was controlled by engineers in a locked room. The idea that someone from outside could break in and take over it was not supposed to be possible. And yet, Max Headroom was everywhere in 1987. He was a fictional AI character, originally from a British science fiction film, then picked up by American television and advertising. He appeared on Coca-Cola commercials. He had his own talk show. He was the face of the future, a glitching, stuttering, endlessly talking digital head who seemed to know everything and fear nothing. He was charming. He was unsettling. He was the world's first AI celebrity, and someone decided to wear his face on the night they committed the most audacious broadcast crime in American history. That choice was not random. Whoever did this wanted the world to know they were not afraid of the future. They were already living in it. Here is exactly what happened on that night. At 9:25 p.m., during the sports segment of the WGN Evening News, the signal was overtaken. The screen cut to static. Then the masked figure appeared, standing in front of a sheet of corrugated metal that was spinning behind them. The mask was a crude version of the Max Headroom character, clearly handmade, with exaggerated features, slightly wrong in a way that made it more terrifying than the original. The figure moved in a jerking, robotic way. They said nothing for several seconds, just grinning. Then they laughed, a loud, unnatural laugh that went on too long. The engineers at WGN managed to cut the signal after about 15 seconds, switching to a backup audio feed. The hijack was over. The studio went into immediate panic. But the night was not finished. 2 hours later, at 11:15 p.m., WTTW, the public broadcasting station, was airing an episode of Doctor Who, and the signal was hijacked. Again, the same figure, the same spinning metal background. This time, the engineers could not cut the feed fast enough. The hijack lasted longer. The figure hummed the theme song from a Pepsi commercial. They made strange, disjointed references that seemed to be aimed at someone specific. They held up a rubber glove, a Pepsi promotional item, and said the words, "Catch the wave." Then they bent over. An accomplice appeared briefly in the background, spanking the figure with a fly swatter. And then it ended. The screen returned to Doctor Who, as if nothing had happened. The entire second hijack lasted under 90 seconds, but it was enough. Those 90 seconds were about to become the most analyzed piece of footage in internet history. The Federal Communications Commission and the FBI launched an immediate investigation. And what they found, or rather, what they did not find, is the most disturbing part of the entire story. To hijack a television broadcast signal in 1987, you did not just need technical knowledge. You needed a specialized transmitter. You needed to position that transmitter at a higher elevation than the official broadcast tower, which, in Chicago, means very high up. You needed a power source capable of sustaining a signal strong enough to overpower a professional broadcasting station. This equipment was not cheap. It was not easy to build. It was not the kind of thing you could order online, because the internet did not exist. Whoever built this knew exactly what they were doing. They were not an amateur. They were an expert. The FCC offered a reward for information. The FBI interviewed dozens of suspects. Broadcast engineers across the country were questioned. Ham radio operators were investigated. Electronic hobbyist groups were surveilled. Nothing, not a single lead that went anywhere. Not a single piece of equipment was ever recovered. Not a single witness ever came forward. The person or people who did this simply vanished. And here is the most chilling detail of all. The hijacking happened twice in the same night, on 2 different stations, in 2 different parts of the city. That means the equipment was either mobile or there were 2 separate transmitters. This was not a spontaneous prank. This was planned, coordinated, executed with precision. Someone spent weeks, maybe months, preparing for 30 seconds of television. For 37 years, people have been trying to decode those 90 seconds. The theories are many. The first theory is that it was a political statement. 87. Chicago was in the middle of intense local political battles. Some analysts believe the strange phrases spoken during the hijack were coded references to specific people or events in Chicago politics. The second theory is that it was an inside job. To know exactly when and where to position a transmitter to overpower those specific signals, you would need detailed technical knowledge of those specific stations. Some believe the hijacker had inside information, maybe even worked for one of the stations. The third theory is the one that haunts me most. It was not meant to be understood. It was a demonstration, a proof of concept, a message sent to someone specific that said, I can get inside your television. I can make you watch me, and you cannot stop me. And if that theory is correct, then the real horror is not what was said. The real horror is what was not said. Because someone with that level of technical skill, that level of planning, that level of audacity, they could have said anything. They could have broadcast classified information. They could have caused a panic. They could have changed history. Instead, they hummed a Pepsi jingle. And that tells me this was never about the message. It was about the power. The Max Headroom incident remains the only unsolved broadcast signal hijack in American television history. The original footage exists. You can watch it right now on YouTube. Millions of people have. Most describe the same feeling after watching it. Not fear exactly, but the sensation that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. Like watching something that was never meant for you. Like receiving a transmission from a frequency that should not exist. Whoever did this is almost certainly still alive. They have never spoken publicly. They have never claimed credit. They are out there right now, maybe watching television, maybe watching you watch television. The FCC statute of limitations ran out long ago. If they came forward today, they could not be prosecuted. They could tell us everything, and they choose not to. That silence is the loudest part of this story. The vault for the Max Headroom incident is now locked, but the next secret is already waiting behind the next door. Subscribe to enter the vault. My name is Jack. Keep your eyes open.